The last thing that comes to your mind while you're gardening is that you're gonna find a coin that is 7 centuries old. But this is exactly what happened to this young girl. However, the girl didn't even think that the police would come to her house several years later just because she found a coin. Kate Harding, a British citizen, was about 9 years old when she had been helping her mom in the garden. The girl had been playing with the dirt just like every other kid, but this had led to her finding one old silver coin. But what happened when Kate found this coin in her garden? When Kate found it, she hid it from her parents and decided to keep this treasure a secret. Since the coin was very dirty and worn, Kate thought it had been under the ground for a very long time, so she went into her room and cleaned the coin behind shut doors. Like every other kid, Kate spent a week obsessing over the new discovery, but when she got bored, she hid the coin in her dresser drawer and completely forgot about it. She had no idea that this treasure will come back to haunt her after so many years, but what kind of haunting? While being only 9, she didn't think of the old coin a lot. Anyway, the girl saved it and never said a word to anyone about her discovery. After so many years, Kate was preparing for college, so she was moving out of the house. While getting ready, she found the coin in her drawer. Just a few months after Kate found the coin in her garden, something devastating happened to her. The young girl lost her mother. She passed away. So, finding the coin in the drawer brought back a good memory of her mother, one of the last ones she had with her. Of course, finding this coin turned Kate's life around. She kept the coin as a reminder of a beloved mother and their days spent working in their garden. Even though she didn't say a thing about the coin, it was still a memory. Anyway, 14 years later, Kate got a lot more interested in the coin. When Kate was a young girl, she didn't know anything about it. Of course, as every kid, she thought it didn't have any value. But now as an adult, she felt that she could find out more about this treasure. She was very curious and decided to discover the mystery behind the old coin. When she was 23 years old, she wanted to reveal where the coin came from and what its story was. Even though it was just a piece of metal, it really made her curious and puzzled her. She had so many questions in her mind and she wanted to get answers as soon as possible. The following day, Kate visited her local museum in the town and looked for help of some experts. The girl told them the story of how she found the coin and told them that now she wants to know the real story. Would her curiosity bring her any good? When Kate went to the museum, she was looking for answers to her questions. She just wanted to know what story hides behind the coin. Her curiosity led her to the museum in the first place. Sadly, it never crossed Kate's mind that she may get into a lot of trouble, more than she could possibly imagine. When Kate was at the museum, she took the coin out of her bag. Then the professional took the coin and looked at this rare finding. It was a special piece. A few seconds, the professional told Kate some surprising news. She didn't see this coming at all. The professional explained to Kate that what she found so many years before wasn't exactly a coin. What was it then? It was something totally different and valuable. Kate was taken by surprise. She was even more curious of what the story was now, so she wanted to learn more. That day before she arrived at the museum, Kate was sure it was a coin, but now it wasn't. Kate felt totally confused. Although this metal wasn't used as a currency, it still had huge worth, more than she ever thought. If only the girl she was back then knew this. As a matter of fact, in the United Kingdom were found only 4 of these metal coins. Some may suppose that it's great news, but that's not the case. There was something happening, something bad, and Kate was unable to escape it. She was destined to learn the truth. Kate got information by the information that her finding wasn't a coin but a PA4. What is a PA4? It looks like a coin, but it weighs about twice as much as a coin. Also, PA4s were double as thick. So what's gonna happen with a coin next? Kate believed the metal was a coin, but it wasn't, so an understandable mistake. She mistook the PA4 as a coin, and anyone could have made this mistake. Now, Kate became even more curious about the history of the PA4 and why it was buried in her backyard. When Kate learned that the coin was worth a lot of money, she became very excited. If you're a student with as many loans, you should understand her situation. This PA4 may make her life much easier now, and she wouldn't need to live paycheck to paycheck anymore. Any person in Kate's shoes would be overly excited for getting the money from the coin she found in her garden. Since she found it, she thought the earnings were all hers, but was she gonna take the profit and have a better life, or was it all a misunderstanding? Although professionals in the field still need to find out the purpose of PA4s, there is a theory that they were used as guides for mint workers. Also, they may have been used for reckoning counters for officials. PA4s are valuable, but the experts still haven't discovered the history behind their value. Kate learned the object was 7 centuries old. Can you imagine that? Holding something 700 years old in your hands? That's amazing. She felt so confused, even though she should have paid more attention to things they had to tell her in order to understand better. Kate's coin turned out to be a commemorative object that put a mark on the ascension of Charles IV to the French throne back in 1322. This is very interesting information that tells us the coin had important historical value. It probably also had a huge worth then, as it does today. The worth of the rare PA4 was estimated for $3,000. It was a hard decision for Kate. She immediately thought of everything she could do with the money, but the object was kind of priceless to her. Remember, one of her last memories with her mother, and we only have one mother. Since this PA4's sentimental value is much greater than the materialistic one, would Kate keep it? After all, she kept it all this time because she felt closer to her beloved late mother. Maybe she'd forget about the money and will save it as a nice memory for her mom. Sadly, the case was different. The coin may have held sentimental memories for Kate, but the police of England didn't. The authorities wanted to get the coin from Kate because of its immense historical value. We should have seen this coming. Nothing's that simple in England, and what was going to happen next? Well, Kate couldn't understand why the authorities were so interested in just a coin, but at the same time, the authorities didn't understand the reason why the girl held on to it so much. This was definitely a messy situation. One couldn't anticipate the end. What was going to happen to Kate? Kate was advised by the Ludlow Museum that she should allow the local coroner learn about her discovery so they'd be able to examine it better and begin negotiations. Of course, their aim was to purchase this coin off her. Will they do that? Would Kate lose her special coin? Regardless, Kate decided to keep the PA4. She just continued her life and ignored the request. She even believed they'd forget about it, but she was wrong. Who forgets something valuable like this? Is Kate's future safe now? What's gonna happen to her and the coin? Kate couldn't find her peace. The museum constantly sent her letters about the coin, and that wasn't all. The staff of the museum called her each and every day, but she was ignoring them because she wasn't interested in selling the coin. It reminded her of her late mother. Anyway, Kate was aware that she wouldn't be able to ignore the phone calls forever. Sooner or later, she'd have to face the consequences. Soon, Anthony Sibsey, a South Shropshire coroner, was alerted about the entire situation with the coin. Is he gonna help her or not really? When Kate opened the door, the police were at her doorstep. They informed her that she needed to show up in court. The girl was completely confused. She was asking herself if she'd done anything wrong. According to Kate, the coin was hers and she was the one who found it. Well, Kate didn't know that the law said different. In fact, Kate never knew that there was a law about old coins. Especially when she was a young girl, she knew nothing of laws and this type of problems. The poor girl felt like she was in a very difficult situation and there was no way out. Things went too far. Kate never thought that she'd be the first person who was going to be prosecuted under the Treasure Act of 1996. It never crossed her mind that things would escalate this much. All she ever wanted was to learn more about a coin she found when she was a little girl. The UK Parliament created this act in 1996, stating that anyone who finds any type of object that may be a treasure needs to report its finding, and the law is legally binding. So what's going to happen to Kate now since she didn't know about the Treasure Act? Furthermore, according to the Treasure Act of 1996, anyone who finds an object older than 3 centuries that contains at least 10% of precious metals and isn't a coin must report it to the coroner in a period of 2 weeks or 14 days. Kate probably should have learned more about that law. Kate Harding isn't a criminal. She didn't do this. In fact, the girl had no idea the coin was a PA4 and she didn't know about the law. Could they blame her? Could they put her in jail for just not knowing? She was just a young girl playing in the garden. Kate's deed was considered to be a criminal offense. Sad but true. They took her offense very seriously because she didn't report the old coin and she didn't want to give it up. So was she innocent? Who's right in this complicated case? Will Kate face prison? This girl felt as she was helpless. But can you imagine being in her place? The feeling must have been awful. All she wanted was for her mother to be there and give her some advice. Kate Harding got arrested, prosecuted, and may be sentenced to up to 3 months in prison. Anyway, Kate was lucky to have hired a good lawyer, Brendan Reedy. The lawyer seemed willing to help Kate because he'd a lot of experience in representing clients at the police station, court of appeal, magistrate courts, and crown courts. He was determined to help Kate Harding. So, is Kate gonna be freed? The good news for Kate was that she got a good lawyer. Fortunately, the lawyer was on her side and decided to help her fight for her right against authorities. So what do you think is gonna happen? Will they win the case? Will Kate keep her coin? The lawyer said that Kate didn't report her finding due to her disorganization as well as its sentimental value. Of course, when she found the coin, she was only 9 years old, so she couldn't do anything then. Actually, the lawyer told the truth. He didn't lie in court. Both the lawyer and Kate hoped this was gonna be enough to get her out of the messy situation. They were both aware that courts can be extremely tough when they're interested in something as valuable as this, so they just needed to wait. Only time would tell. Even after being aware of the law, Kate admitted that she didn't report the coin to the coroner. Yes, this wasn't a smart move, but Kate was pretty close to her mother, so the treasure really meant something to her. It reminded her of gardening with her beloved mom. Even besides all the things that happened, Kate wanted to keep the coin she found. Yes, it was rare and valuable, but to her it was priceless, so she didn't care about anything else. The sentimental value was the most important thing to her. She loved her mother very much. The sentimental value was the most important thing to her. She loved her mother very much. The coin was the only thing she had from her mom, thus the object was priceless to her. Kate was aware that she would go after it even after being cleared. Was this a smart move to make? What was Kate's next step? Maybe Kate's being tenacious. After a long and exhausting battle, Kate was set free under conditional discharge. She just needed to pay $30 towards her legal fees. Nonetheless, the case for Kate was not all happy because she didn't have any rights to keep the coin, strongly believing it was her property. When things were over, Kate decided to do what she should have done a long time ago. Finally, the girl went to talk to the coroner about what happened. They didn't know that she'd surprised them in such a way. What's the surprise this time, Kate? Kate was offered $3,000 for that object by the Ludlow Museum, a huge sum of money. But her explanation was that she lost it when she went to talk to the coroner. That's the reason the museum never got the PA-4. Did she lie? The authorities didn't handle this delicate situation, so the public was outraged. Since when did museums become law enforcers? I too would ignore threatening letters from a bunch of collectors. This means Kate wasn't alone in the way she was feeling. There were people out there who supported her strongly. They took this woman to court over a coin. This is ridiculous. I'm all for preserving English heritage, but quite rightly, this is her property. People couldn't believe that they sued this woman over a coin. Of course, there should have been a better way of solving this case instead of suing. One person said, "What happened to possession is 9/10 of the law." And another one said, "This is crazy. She found it fair and square. Why does she have to give it up?" Well, people were probably right about this, but what could one do against the law in a strong country? The people didn't let this go easily. There were questions arised. For example, Coventry man Allen asked an excellent question. "I can't understand how she could be found guilty. If the find was in 1996, did it occur before or after the Treasure Act came into force? Is it possible for the prosecution to prove the date of the discovery of the coin? Probably not. Anyway, the museum was determined to do whatever it takes to get the PA-4. They wanted it so badly, so they simply saw neither limits nor boundaries. What's coming next? Is Kate safe? There were even more questions coming from people. Coventry man Allen continued, "Secondly, if it took place 14 years ago, she was only 9 years old. What was the age of criminal responsibility at that time? For juveniles under the age of 15, the prosecution would still have to prove she knew the act was seriously wrong." Allen ended with, "And the magistrate's appealing ignorance of the law has given her a criminal record. I think she should appeal before a real judge." This sentimental coin made things very serious and gone too far. Just a coin kept for sentimental reasons made such chaos. The question is, did Kate really lose the coin she had for such a long time? Probably not. She was probably just determined to keep the reminder of her mother. Well, the love of her mother was strong enough to make her do even the impossible. Kate wanted to win even by hiding the truth. Kate was determined to do whatever it takes to keep the coin. She was probably very upset too. Well, we can't blame her. After all, it was very dear to her and it reminded her of her late mother. Maybe we'd do the same if we were in her shoes. If we were in her shoes, maybe we would have done the same thing to save that piece of treasure. The museum shouldn't force her to give something up that she found in her garden when she was just a young girl, and something very dear to her. When Kate said she lost the coin, the authorities finally stopped tormenting her. It was finally peaceful for this poor girl. She deserved to be peaceful. It was real torture. On the other hand, the museum wouldn't be able to examine it, so this is gonna stay a mystery. Kate could exchange the coin for $3,000, but the money would be spent and nothing would be left of it. In this way, if she didn't really lose it but kept it hidden, she may pass it on to next generations. Her children and grandchildren would be happy to have such a valuable memory. After going through so much trouble, we really hope Kate managed to keep the coin and hid it well enough someplace where only she'd be able to find it. And from time to time remind herself of the beautiful moments she spent in the garden with her mother. These are things that money can't buy.